Today, class, we will be talking about absolute value equations and inequalities. An absolute value equation is the distance a number is from zero. It is always positive. Now, on the board are three best steps to solving an absolute value equation and an inequality. Step 1, you need to isolate the absolute value expression. Step 2, you need to set up two equations. First equation, you should drop the absolute value signs and then you just solve. For the second equation, you drop the absolute value signs, then you negate the opposite side and solve. Negate means you change what the problem equals to a negative. Step 3, you must always check the solutions. As you finish writing your notes, I'm going to be setting up 4 examples that we're going to do in class today about how to solve the equation and then the best way to use your calculator to graph the equation. This is a very simple step. Our first problem is going to be x plus 2 absolute value signs equals 7. Desiree, what do you think the best way to solve this is from using your notes?
Okay, you drop the absolute value signs. Then you solve. You bring over the 2.
So x would equal?
X would equal 5.
Correct. Now, say I changed my equation to x plus 2 equals negative 7. Then what?
Okay. Drop the absolute value signs. So it'll be x plus 2 equals negative 7. Bring over the 2. And then you would have x equals negative 9.
Correct. Now, our next one is an inequality, and we are going to graph it. Okay. Desiree, what would be the best way to solve this one?
Drop the absolute value signs. Then bring over the 4. B would equal 10.
Does the sign change at all?
No, because it's not a negative 4. We're not dividing by a negative.
Okay. Now, again, if I was to have the exact same equation, except a negative 6, what would be my procedure?
You have to drop the absolute value signs again. Then you have to bring over the 4. And then B would equal negative 2.
Now, the best way to solve in your calculator would be, you would go to the y equals, you would hit math, and you would go to, it says number, you would hit, then you would hit to the absolute value sign, and you would plug in x minus 4, close the parentheses, and then a very cool way in your calculator, you hit second test, greater than 6, and then you hit graph. And your graph should look something to this fact. And it should stop around the negative 2. Now if you were to go back and you were to change it to a negative 6, then it would go and stop somewhere around there. Okay, now I'm going to give you 2 problems that I want you to do on your own, and then I want you to graph on your own. First problem is 2b minus 4 is greater than 6. The second problem is 3x minus 18 is equal to 5. And you need to graph both of these. While you do that, I'm going to tell you about where you can use this in a real life situation. Semiologists would use this to express the magnitudes of earthquakes. If you had a scale and it ranged from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, the uncertainty in the estimate of the magnitude is about plus or minus 0.3 unit. This means that an earthquake with magnitude estimated at 6.1 on the scale might actually have a magnitude as low as 5.8 or as high as 6.4. These extremes can be described as the absolute value equation, which would be the absolute value equation. So most semiologists use this to determine if it's going to be a higher earthquake or if it's going to be a lower earthquake, and they use this scale in everyday life. Now, is everybody finished with their problems?
Yes.
Okay, Desiree, I want you to come up and I want you to graph these two problems. There's a pen.
Okay. You go to 1 to 11. Something down there, something like this. You have another one that's at 6 to 10. There's 9 for this one. And then for this one, you have 3 on this side and 6 on that side.
Yes, it looks right. So everyone should have something that looks like what Desiree did, because there's not a lot of room. Now on your desk in the corner you will find your homework. I want you to do the evens tonight and the odds tomorrow. That'll be turned in by tomorrow, and if you don't turn it in, it's a 0.
This much work? Are you serious?
You know, Miss D, she's always making us do all this homework.
Gotcha.
We better get an A on this report, Miss D. I'm going to be very mad at you if we don't.
Very mad.
Okay.